Welcome back to the Plum Wild recap. I am the host, as always, Nathan Waddell. Beside me is Damian Kiefer.
How we doing?
Still recovering from the beach, dude. I feel
Yeah,
like
the beach was kind of hard on us.
dude. It was that was a fun freaking trip though.
It was
We
a good
went
time.
we went live on Facebook and everything too. I mean, I don't really
Twice.
remember. Yeah, I was trying to tell my mom about how the trip went, and I was sitting there and I was like, so we did this and then what happened? And I basically just had to tell her, I was like, look, we got down there, we started drinking, and then that's all I remember. It was a lot.
It was a good time though.
It was a great time.
We got a little rowdy.
Yeah, little rowdy. But this is what I was telling my mom was, I feel like, me personally, I'm proud of the fact that like I went hard, but I didn't go too hard. Like I never went too hard.
None of us really passed the limit. Like
No.
we rode right under the line
Right.
for a good. I was feeling rough there Sunday after the mini golf tournament after I smoked you, but
Smoked me, but you tied
Emma.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
You got smacked around by Hannah, so
well, I mean, you ain't gotta.
what can you say?
Not much, honestly. What I can say is we left ourselves with a limited amount of time to practice for Cedar Lake, didn't we?
Very limited to Monday after work.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but even then, like I was feeling pretty confident, going into it. Like even though I had limited practice, I was still feeling pretty comfortable with the setup and the line that I was thinking was going to be our qualifying line, and I was comfortable, and then I qualified, and I thought I hit a good line, and then I look at the leaderboard, and I'm there at the back. I was like, what? And then so I expressed how disappointed I was, to you and a lot of other people on Apex about, just how it's gone for me so far. And then last night, whenever I was setting all this up, I went back and looked at the replay, and I hit a good line, but I could have went, I think, a lot lower in 1 and 2 on my slider line that I was running, and I think that's really what cost me a lot of time, because outside of that, it felt like a really good lap, but
Right.
I guess everybody just hit a really, really good lap. And you, what happened with your qualifying?
Went out for lap 1. I didn't like it. Went out for lap 2. Really liked my 1 and 2. Went to 3 and 4, and I barely skimmed the infield tire. So we did not get any registered laps. So I was a little bit upset with myself after the performance in the qualifying, which really put both of us behind the hill all night.
Yeah, it really did, and we just keep finding ourselves really in these situations where we don't qualify well, and then we have to try to make something happen in the heat or the LCQ, and we've talked about it, and I think we're just gonna try not to make excuses or anything, and just kind of put our heads down and work harder, because at this level, maybe it would have been different on the old build for us because we already had so much experience, but at this level, like, with this build, you're having to put in a lot more time each week to find that speed and find those lines and everything. So we'll work on that. I found myself, I want to bring it up, I found myself in the same heat as Travis St. Clair again, all around him this whole
3 weeks
in a row, and we rubbed a little bit again, but it's just hard racing. I mean,
I was in the mix as well with you.
You were, and I was trying to, I I like St. Clair, and obviously I don't want to get into you. I don't want to get into St. Clair, and I'm just trying to find something. And
There was very little room.
There was very little room, and there was this. It's been growing because of how week 1 and week 2 went, and then how Monday night started. There's this growing frustration. With that comes kind of like this desperation, and so it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, didn't do much in the heat race. I think I finished dead last. You got a couple of spots, but
yeah, I think I finished 7th, right there behind Callan Willis.
Yes.
And yeah.
So
I finished 7th.
I mean, that's 3 spots out of a transfer. That puts you starting like what, 5th, and you and I for once were in a different LCQ, which was good.
Right.
But you were starting 5th, and then I had finished dead last in the heat, so I was starting dead last in LCQ. So it was just a very tough uphill battle, and we've had success in the past at Cedar Lake, but that was on the old build. Someone had asked me earlier in the week, or they had told me, like, good luck, you got this at Cedar Lake, you won in the pro qualifiers there, and I was like, well, that was on a different build. So
right.
It's completely different. Still felt pretty confident. I mean, I think, with the limited amount of practice and, it kind of the hangover, it can be looked at as a good thing. Like, we have really started to realize like how much time we're going to have to put into this if we're wanting to have any form of success, especially in qualifying. So, it's
right now that's the name of the game.
Yeah,
where you qualify is kind of it determines your night.
Yes, it does, very, very much, and it's we talk about the nerves and everything, and it's not. I still haven't felt really any nerves going into qualifying. So, and I experienced that a lot last year in my first Pro Series. I don't think you did so much, or if you did, you just powered through it because you had a lot of good qualifying runs. But I know I experienced it a lot last year in my first year. I would go out there and like Peyton said in week 1, he just forgot how to drive, right?
Yeah.
And that happened to me a lot last year, but I just haven't felt that this year. So it's kind of frustrated me a little bit that despite not having the nerves, not been able to qualify, and so it's all right. another week down, another time not making the feature for me. Your first feature that you haven't made so far, but
yeah,
I mean, it didn't look like we missed out on much not making that feature.
Yeah, no, not too terribly sad, but also not. I still would like to make the show, of course, but yeah, no, definitely frustrated as well. Clocked, I think it was 14th in time wise, even though I hit the tire, but which kind of put me. I knew I was decent enough to stay up front and run up front, or not run up front, but like stay in my position there and make the show. But to not make the show to me is kind of like shot in the butt.
Yeah,
it's a little upsetting, and but it is what it is. It's racing. There's going to be times where you struggle, and there's going to be times when you're on top. So just got to learn to adapt and continue to get better for next week.
Yeah, we're definitely going to put in a lot of time and effort this week, as much as we can, to hopefully, do a little bit better come Monday night. But for now, we got our guest, JD Brown, going to be joining us. Let me drag him down in here and get to this screen. Now, JD doesn't have a camera, which is unfortunate, but well, JD, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Good deal. Well, welcome to the Plum Wild Recap. Just a little introduction here for JD. You're on the number 14 Alpha Industries car. You're from California. Very decorated pro driver, dirt oval
all
sim
around.
Racer all around. I mean, I've seen you win high SOF non-wing races. Freaking, you're sprint car pro, multiple time sprint car pro since 2020, multiple time late model pro. and correct
Pro
me if I'm
Series
wrong.
qualifier winner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two-time Pro Series race winner, and then you won the overall points too. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, it should be a good episode. Watch back the race and see how everything went.
Yeah, for sure. So you actually qualified really well compared to myself and Kiefer. I mean, you put?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you put a lot of time into qualifying practice.
Main thing for like me and kind of just like James, me, Logan, all of us, like we knew we had qual speed already. Like that wasn't our problem because like for the past couple like weeks we knew we were fine on that. Because we were just like mainly testing race speed. Because like for us we mainly run the same setup for the most part at every track. Just like little tweaks. So like we had qual speed, we're fine with that. It was just like I said, spent all week testing for the race is the main thing.
So
Right.
I hate to interrupt, but I have one question. You talk about your teammate Edens, and you got Loic, and I'm assuming a couple of others that I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's Alpha Industries now. What happened there? Why not Slick Sim Sports anymore? And why did you choose Alpha Industries? You got Apex Industries, us over here, and I'm like, they're gonna mix that up at some point.
Yeah, well the main thing is just like half of us were Slick, half were technically Swindell, and it was just like we needed to just make it our own team basically. So we just decided on Alpha Industries. That's basically it. Just it was getting confusing. We had Slick and Swindell. There's not many of us left anyways, so we just made it a full new team.
Right, and just kind of meet the masses and clear the air everywhere, and boom,
Yeah.
one deal. I wasn't around long enough to remember the full Slick and the Swindell separation, but that's been a while.
Oh yeah, because like we started, I think it was like 2020. We started like working together, and like in total, I think there was like in total between both teams there was like 14 of us. It's like CFM now.
Yeah.
So, but now we have like barely any. Like it's mainly just us four and pro, and then like a couple guys that help out. But we're the four that mainly actually race now.
Right, and it's kind of nice just to be like me and Nathan. It's only two, so we got Blake and a few other guys, but it is nice to be a little bit smaller and not have to deal with all the drama behind scenes.
Oh yeah, I hate racing against teammates. Like it started the feature where like we were all starting up front. Like right before the feature, I was like, I hate that we're all starting up here because like it's just you always have to be careful.
Especially like that's kind of how I feel. Like even you're racing right there with Edens and it's tight at Cedar Lake, and just the way the track was working, it's hard to pass a teammate.
Oh yeah, because you don't want to. You try to give them more room. For the most part, I'm usually like just let them by. I don't worry too much about it, and I consider them like faster than me for the most part, James and Logan. So, like early in the race, like me and James like almost net coded one lap, and then I gotta just let them by. Where you just roll and we just you can't pass anyway, so just roll to the end.
Right.
So what did you think of the track? I mean, did you kind of see it coming, in the warm up that like this is, we kept, discussing whether or not it was rubber or not, but it became one lane, right? And it became one lane very, very quickly. Did you kind of see that coming or what?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of prepared for it from the very start. Like, even if the reset, like, I had no intentions or James of going up top that entire race. Like, we knew the middle was good. Like, it was either gonna rubber, or even if it was with the reset, the top would have been good for a little bit. But like, eventually, usually just goes the middle. So we were prepared for that from the start. Like, that's all we tested really. It was just to run middle.
Right, and that's kind of what I noticed, even on the few laps that I made, and a few people mentioning, like, even in like. That would hop in Discord and say, "Oh, we're gonna run the top in 1 and 2," and I was like, "There's no way that we run the top in 1 and 2. It's gonna be." And I think realistically, you could have ran the middle all night and never had to touch the top, like some people.
That's what I did. I don't think I went up there once. Basically, the entire time, it was just the middle just too good at Cedar. I mean, old build, the top would obviously come in more, but with this build, it was mainly just middle.
Yeah, and no pre-gen this week, which I would say kind of killed a cushion, but. Not necessarily. I think at the end of the day, it would have ended up in the same position that we were at.
Yeah, I mean Cedar Lake. I think this build doesn't race too well, and most tracks just don't the way the tracks are. So it's really no matter what you do. I mean, we have 3 weeks, and all three have just been middle, so there's
Yeah.
not much you can do about it.
And Port Royal coming up. Usually that is known for you're beating the boards down, and
I mean,
I have some hopes that it's going to be a pretty good race.
I
And I
think,
think there's
yeah,
potential
I
that
think
you
it could
could
be
get
very good.
passing in, especially if the top's like somewhat decent and you can kind of wall tap, but it's going to be treacherous.
It all depends on the reset, really, what we get. So, I mean, hopefully it's good. I was good there for Qual Series. I felt good so far this week, running a couple laps I did, so
I mean,
Yeah.
should be good.
I won at Cedar, and I've already brought that up in this episode, but I won at Cedar, and someone had told me, like, good luck, you should have a lot of confidence going in because you won in the qualifiers, and I was like, well, that's a totally different build. So I mean, same question to you. You won it at Port during the qualifiers in a really good race where you actually weren't banging the boards the whole race,
Yeah.
which surprised the
Car
hell out of
rolling.
me. So does that give you any confidence, or are you kind of in the same boat, like that's a completely different build?
I think with Cedar it's a lot different than Port, where Port's like, the reason you're like someone's good at Port is they know how to like run the wall well, and you kind of know what parts like of the wall to just run it right and kind of right against it. So that was me there, where I feel like I'm better at running the top than most there, and then obviously I can just run middle the entire time if I really wanted to. So like Cedar, it's hard because I feel like we drive it a lot different now, but Port, it's like you're probably just gonna be up top or against the fence or just run mid, so it's about same.
Full sending on the cushion 1 and 2 on entry.
It's fun.
It is kind of fun, kind of scary at the same time.
Very scary.
Whenever I finally figured it out during the qualifier race there, whenever I finally figured it out because Kiefer was in my ear telling me what to do, it was after one of the restarts, and I finally got it down, and I was rolling, just banging
You were
the
catching
push, dude.
JD and Durgan and
I
all
was,
those guys.
and it was actually kind of fun. Like it was so on the edge of like what felt like I was about to kill the car, but if I hit it right and I was fast, it was so much fun. And I haven't really done it on this build, so I'm kind of looking forward because all I've ran at Port so far in this build has just kind of been whenever the track's still bottom, which is cool to see, but I'm excited to see with the new damage model and everything and how the top will feel.
I think it'll still be pretty fast. You can still rip it pretty hard, especially when the cushions build up. Like in the officials, the officials have been pretty top dominant, but obviously it's gonna be a lot slicker. Or hopefully in the actual races, the top's not as as massive of a cushion.
Hopefully, old Tyler Hudson gets us a good racetrack, wraps it up, gets the tiller out, maybe halftime or something.
Hopefully.
I mean, I think I would expect something crazy because week 1 he didn't do anything. He let it go all the way through. Week 2 he tried something. I don't know if the racing was really much better. I feel like it was better. And then, Monday night he let it go all the way through again, and I think that was like the nail in the coffin for just letting it go all the way through. And I feel like he probably will do something crazy again with the amount of pre-gen that we get.
Yeah, I think we have to get a reset.
Hoping it's like a 50% reset or something crazy where there's a gnarly cushion but the bottom's fully juiced.
Yeah, I wish we got a higher reset at Fairbury. It was like a 30 or 40.
Yeah, I would agree. Because where did we start out? 55. Like I thought the racing was really well.
I thought really good.
And
the heats.
It was competitive, and like, even in the B mains, it was still decent. So I think if you would have put it to like kind of what you said, 30-40%, send it on its way, I think we'd have had a little bit better race, but not a perfect race by any means.
Yeah, I just have to see. It just sucks that we have to do this every week and pre-gens and stuff compared to old build where the tracks would just get so slick, or like you're just running it throughout the night and it'd be fine.
And I'm not saying like this build's worse than the other, because I personally think that the cars feel better now.
Yeah.
It's just the matter of fact of the racing surface was what I think needs to be evaluated in some way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So we're not locked down on lap 4 of the feature.
Someone
thing is,
brought
like,
up,
every car is so much different too. Like midgets don't even stick off the track compared to like
that's
late
what
models
I
and
saw.
sprints.
I saw that
And
in
I
the
could-
forums.
And I could see like even like the street stocks like struggling with getting a track slick now, or some of those lower like the modifieds. I couldn't even.
Yeah.
A modified would be wide open all night. Like an official.
The UMP?
Yeah, for officials.
Yeah, 100. I would say.
Let's see,
I've ran a couple. I've ran a couple,
Yeah.
and let's see. I
I'd say
ran
most of pre-gen. now.
Charlotte with a decent amount of pre-gen in a UMP, and it went kind of back to the old line where you were like, you know, top with a cut down, and then kind of like a slider line, or just middle in 3 and 4.
Those might be fun now.
They
now that I
are. They
think
are
of it.
pretty
Probably the
fun.
best car in the game right now.
The UMPs.
I would say
Yeah.
probably the best car. Yeah, that and then late model second.
So you still
Yeah.
like late models on this build?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, driving wise, yeah. I think the car's handled just fine. It's really just the
Yeah.
tracks like
Yeah.
need to be tuned in. Sprint cars are just a whole other thing, right? I don't want to race them at all now. But
Yeah.
Right. So
No,
so
the
that
late
was
models now, driving wise, feel really good in the wheel. Like even compared to like
yes,
a real car in a way. You got to kind of manhandle them a little bit more than you used to. But other than that, I think they're pretty spot on. There's few minor adjustments, but you're never gonna get it perfect.
yeah,
I mean, it's got to be. I think just getting everything with how dynamic and complicated dirt track racing is. I just don't think that like I don't think it's technologically possible right now to get it as accurate as we'll want it to be. But
No.
I think this
Yeah.
build is. I still think this build is a step in the right direction. What I think is the problem, and I've seen it in the forum, someone pointed out, like, obviously what we're seeing, or what I'm seeing on the screen right now from the race, was everybody's just locked down one lane right in what should be the slick, and
Yeah.
how there's light brown that is there, but
3/10
it's
off the pace.
yeah,
less grip.
right. And so, you know, I brought up that, like, it's just confusing and it doesn't add up to how it was on the last build. And you agreed with me, JD, how on the last build it at least felt more realistic with
Yes.
the way that the track looked and how it went.
Yeah, the grease was actually like
Right.
a little bit slower. Then you have to run it in. But now grease is like insane speed.
Right. Where I feel like with it, I believe if I'm not, I might be wrong, but I believe is same thing the sprint cars used to be like. Where I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, the sprint cars are like now are just a struggle to drive. I haven't ran too many laps, but a couple laps just don't want to race. Like my teammates run them a lot more than me, so I mean I have to start running after this for pro series for those. But
Yeah.
ideally, just run late models right now for the most
Yeah.
part.
I mean,
so I don't remember. Are you locked in the Sprint
He
Car
is,
Pro
yeah.
Series still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at one point I was almost a lead in the deal, like early. I
Yeah.
was like third in points, and then like at the very end, last two races I like fell to seventh, I think, or sixth.
I will say you're probably one of the unluckiest drivers. I can't even say that you've ever, because I see a lot of races and like I've watched a lot, like just a lot of the bigger races in the last 2
Mhm.
years, and you always somewhat find the short end of the stick, and it's nice to see you back rolling again and being competitive, kind of like how you were at the end of the pro qual there.
Yeah, last year was very like every single time I was on track for pro series, especially late models, like I wrecked. Like it was last year was really really rough.
And
Like, a lot of that is like getting yourself in like
Yeah.
worse positions. Like I wasn't putting myself in great spots, but it was still like every single time I was usually it did not finish the race, whether it was the heat V or the main.
Yeah, and it's tough racing like just on the pro series level because of how competitive it is and how many inches you can give and how many you can't. Like it's tight racing.
Yeah, it's very close. It's like nothing compared to anything else. Like pro's just different than any league race hosted. If it
Right.
like no matter
And
what, it's
And it's
different.
so close. Like I think qualifying was spread within a tenth and a half for 30 something guys. Like that's if you like really want to think about it, that's kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, we used to for sprint cars we used to do 0% qualifying, and it was literally like the entire field was within 1/10. Like if you were like off by like 3,000, it was like or 300, it was like you're losing 10 spots. Like it was so bad back then.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
rough.
people that we've brought it up before on this podcast, but people just underestimate just how hard it is in the Pro Series. It's it's a whole another animal. I mean, I think the closest we talked about it last week, I think, but I think the closest thing that comes to it is like the huge money races and like maybe the qualifiers if it's your first time in the qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean that's really the only thing that compares. Even like fling, I never make the main, but like Percy's I more so can. But it's just still it's more so about being consistent too. Because some guys do have speed, like they're good for the fling, but it's like to be good in pro, you have to be good every single week.
Right. Like there's no, yeah, you can't just grind one track for 2 weeks. You gotta
Yes,
grind every track a week at a time, the middle of whatever else you're doing. It's a grind itself. It's almost not another job, but it's another job.
it's still a lot of work to you have to get laps in to figure stuff out. Like old build wasn't as bad, like especially sprint cars because you ran the same setup forever. But, like with the new
Yeah.
build, there's a lot more testing. Like I said, this week, like we knew our race speed was pretty bad, so like it was all week testing race pace and trying to get better at that.
So
Most amount of laps.
yeah, Brandon Holtmeyer wants to know what's the most amount of laps you guys have put into a single practice session. I have my answer. I want to say it was up towards 350 or 400 in one single practice session. What's your answer, Keith?
Yeah,
The other day I had 280, but I think the most I've had it was old build when it first started. I think I put almost 580 laps at Fairbury, like the day the new build came out for last build.
yeah. I don't know how much. It's probably around that range. I'd have been on the game for a while, so I don't exactly know, but yeah, somewhere around those 300 laps, 400 laps in a server.
Especially whenever you're grinding, like you're just not even like just building aspect of it. It's just being consistent and being able to hit the qual line every single time, perfect.
Oh yeah.
And the same way as racing is just how can I run the top or run the bottom or run the middle perfect for 40 laps, 50 laps, whatever it is. And then how do I like I practice race crafting, I guess you would say, cutting down like it's
Mm.
sometimes I think it's those little things that help and get you that extra step.
Yeah, just more laps and racing against more people. I for like this feel like with Tyler, like you actually have to go on runs. Like it used to be like you do 3 laps and you tell if the setup's good or not. But now you have to like
Right.
go on actual long run to see what the car does on a 50 laps in, 40 laps in to see what the tires do.
And that's what I was looking at, like when I was testing for Fairbury there, or not Fairbury, Cedar Lake this week. Feature speed, I felt great. It's just I feel like I'm like shooting myself in the foot in qualifying with something I'm doing wrong personally is my driving. But yeah, like what I've been doing is having to run those 40, 50 lap runs, and I made 2 different sets, and one was like 3/10 off the pace, like, and
Yeah.
then I made a few tweaks, and it was right there, pretty consistent the whole time. I think I only fell off like 4/10, and I'm like, holy cow, by just like one little right rear
Oh yeah.
adjustment. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, like so like certain things on the car, especially like Packer is the main thing. Is like one click of Packer like completely changes how the car will handle.
Yes.
So it's very minute. Like try to get it exactly where you want it at.
Same as like I feel like ride heights are another big thing, and if getting those things
Yes.
right, and if you adjust your right rear, your right front, left rear, even like a quarter inch, like the car doesn't even drive the same, and then at first, and then it might start coming to you, but and then it might wear the tire more. You've been around it long enough, you
Yeah.
understand. Yeah,
Yeah. What
So
line did you guys run in qualifying?
I ran slider in a
same.
way
Mm.
like that
I
lower
know.
mid.
Yeah, yeah. I know we ran. I know Evan did too. I saw like during for qualifying, that's what he was running. It was we were just running like way up high in the marbles,
In
like both
only
corners.
Oh, both. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
for
momentum.
qualifying, or you did that
Yes,
at
for
the end of?
qualifying.
Oh, okay. See,
It was like me.
I
I know
very
Evan
Evan did.
did, Logan, me, James ran slider in 3 and 4, and then I know a couple other guys ran some paper lines, but like Loic ran bottom, like infield tires, both corners in like 7th.
Yeah,
But
and that's
run different lines.
I think it's kind of just what you like and what you prefer too. Like I like to charge the corner,
Mm.
especially on iRacing. Not necessarily the real life racing, but in iRacing, I want to charge the corner all the time, and I found myself starting to have to back off more and more and more on
Mhm.
entry.
Yeah, you do drive the cars a lot harder than previous field.
Right
Like a lot of the time, where you're just dead sideways in the, especially
now,
like early on.
if you're in the throttle wide open in the center and you're trying to race, you get so tight and you get the
Yeah.
death push or yeah.
Yeah. So JD, you have VRS by JD Brown on your car. How long have you been
Yeah.
building for them?
The year at, I think late 2020, I believe. It's been a while because at first I was doing like the late model stuff and Tim Ryan was doing sprint car stuff, and then eventually I just started doing everything. But it's been yeah, I've been doing those for quite a while now.
And
And
when did you start iRacing?
When Dirt came out,
Oh, okay.
so that was
Okay.
2017.
2017, yeah.
Yeah, that's when Dirt, the initial Dirt, and then I didn't really get good. I would say it's like or like competitive like 2019, 2018 when I started a lot more competitive, like probably more so 2019.
Yeah, and that's right when you guys all came together and formed
Yeah.
Slick, and yeah,
Yeah, because
And
that's
before I
when
wasn't
I,
on Slick, and then me and Hayden and McSwain switched over to Slick.
yeah,
and were you
yeah,
kind
that's
of like trying to build setups from the start, or like when did you start doing that?
Yeah. Well, because the first like year or two, like I was strictly like didn't talk to like anyone on the game. Like I was just always by myself, so I had to build setups. Like
right.
the first time I ran a league race, like I always thought I was bad. Like I still think I'm bad. I always think I'm not good. Like early on, I wouldn't run any league races. I didn't think I was good enough. And like the first league race I ran, it was like stacked. Everyone was there, and I got like third or something in a modified race. And it was like my own setups, and immediately starting getting messages from teams. Because like at the time I didn't run any leagues or anything. So yeah, from the start I always built like my own setups forever.
And
And
y'all talk about all the setup building shit, and that's foreign to me. I don't know. I
Just
run
click
whatever Kiefer
buttons.
sends me.
just click
Yeah.
buttons, and then another fun fact about JD here is after all of his Pro Series wins and qualifiers, he allowed everyone to get the dig.
Yeah.
That was the
I posted
greatest
them
Yeah.
every
thing.
week.
And it was awesome. I was like, this is
What
hilarious. Like I love this.
What's interesting to me though is that you did that whenever you knew that all that stuff would be irrelevant.
Yeah,
Whenever
I knew it
and,
didn't
and you
matter.
haven't
Yeah,
been doing that for Pro Series, buddy. What's up?
Well,
yeah. That's what
yeah,
I've been.
things
Come
I've
on
been
now.
things change a little bit.
Yeah, I've been waiting for them JD
That's what I'm
iRacing dirt track posts.
looking for, that
The
post on
BRS,
Dirt Talk.
the Port Royal BRS sets this week are pretty dominant. I will say that.
All right, we're gonna have to go
BRS
check.
sets are relatively, usually relatively close to what I run. Not
Yeah.
too far off. Obviously run so many laps and so many different setups get made every single time you
Well,
go on track.
and then you got to think about like everyone's different. Like everyone's got
Oh
their
yeah.
little niche. Like, oh, well, I like +2 actually, and I like 0 actually, or I
Oh
like
yeah, we have to deal with that all the time because
yeah,
it's James, me, and Logan, and it's like we gotta run different stuff, especially Logan. Like whenever Logan builds, me and James cannot run no matter what,
yeah,
but he always runs it somehow. So it's just
yeah.
different people like different stuff.
That's kind of like what's kind of nice about me and Nathan. We kind of have very similar driving styles, so it's kind of easy to work with each other. But for like just working like in a mass, just like trying to help everyone, it's almost impossible.
Oh yeah, I mean it used to be like when we had more guys, it was usually just like me, James, maybe Logan. Like someone would build a set, and then everyone else would just pick and choose whatever they like more, and
Right.
that's what everyone else would run.
And that's
But
what
having one setup guy for like everyone is tough.
it's almost impossible because you can't. There's so many different like I just know from experience, like the guys like that are on Apex, like half of them hate my stuff, and the other half love my stuff.
Well, that's because
Yes.
half of them were used to Zach's stuff whenever they all came over
Because it didn't.
running Zach's tight ass sets, dude.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which were
and my stuff.
fast, but I couldn't do Zach's stuff. I
I like
could,
to
Yeah, I
but
usually run a lot tighter than James. Like it's me. Like I'm usually the tightest, and then James, and then Logan's the loosest. It's usually
Yeah.
on sets.
Yeah, that's me and Logan get along great because I
Mhm.
always sideways. I'm not a right front guy. I'm rely on the right rear to catch a little something most of the time
Yeah.
on iRacing, or get the left rear down on the bottom and dig.
Mhm.
so I have a question for you, JD. So you've been doing this for a very, very long time, relatively. For how long it's been
Yeah.
out. I mean, were you on R Factor before iRacing came out with Dirt?
Very, very little bit, but I was never like I didn't even do races. Like down the mods and like I'd play them, but very, very little.
So how? My question is, being a pro since 2020, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
2020s.
being a
Yes.
pro since 2020 in both the sprints and the late models, like how do you still find the drive to continue doing it at such a high level and still um, push yourself to practice as much as
Yeah,
you need
I
to
mean the
compete at that
build.
level?
Yeah, the new build would help. Like I said, last year a lot of reason I didn't like also struggled is I didn't put in the time last year at all. Like I was
Mhm.
just every week I just came in like Monday and
Yeah,
like got the setup set whoever else made and just ran. Like the new build helped a lot. And just also like with VRS, like I kind of have to be on the game a lot of the time, so that's also like I put a lot of work like building those, like out the build like midget sets I was building earlier for those, and then it's like makes me not want to run laps for late models as much because I already ran so much, but just
right,
and also like once you have like speed, we usually just run the same stuff. Like it's not
right.
doesn't change too much for us. We have speed already, so we don't have to put too much work in to get it good for every track.
And that's kind of how I was last build. I think Nathan knows this well. We ran two setups.
Yeah.
We had a
Oh
qualifying
yeah.
setup and a feature setup, and that's
That's all you really need.
pretty
Once you
much
get
it.
something dialed in, it's like kind of just run that. Like I said, for sprint cars, like when I started running, there's a setup called base queue that basically the entire field had that from 2017 to 2020, or like until this build, or I guess last build when we had the broke sets, like everyone in the same set for like 3 years. It was
Yeah,
the set every single person ran.
I
It
missed
was
the
just,
broken sprint car set because that's whenever I could drive.
oh yeah, I was good on those.
So,
Holt,
Holtmeyer has another question here. He wants to know, JD, were you in the non-wing Pro Series whenever they had it?
No, this is I think it was 2019 or because I was like, I ran a bit. I ran like the first week. Like realistically, like I could have probably made it if I actually stuck to it. But I ran the first week and like wrecked, and I was just like, I'm done. So, but yeah, I ran a bit of non-wing stuff because I was also when like Caden ran and David and a
right?
couple other people that I knew.
Yeah, and the non-wing side of things just doesn't get the attention. I actually drove. We messed around with them last build a little bit, and they're super fun. Just
Oh yeah,
not many people race them, and they're a handful.
That's
yeah, they're
why.
just too hard for most people.
Yeah.
It's just very difficult
I
to
It's
just
be
found out
consistent.
that the more you stood on the gas, the better it was.
Yeah, you are pretty hard on throttle on those cars.
well in the
Just
fixed
keeping it
set, which is what
steady.
we was messing around with.
Oh
It was
yeah.
like that.
Hey, then I went and bought a setup and joined a race, and still sucked.
Well, you probably didn't buy from VRS then.
No, I didn't.
No BRS.
Oh, yeah, the I think the non-wings kind of suffer from the two main factors I think that they kind of suffer are they're really hard to drive, and it's like, and then there's also like a negative feedback loop going on there. Like no one runs them because no one runs them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
just
I'm not going to sign up for it because no one else is signed up for it.
yeah, for sure.
It's a paradox.
Like
You
the
know what I
same thing
mean?
whenever you see like a super late model official at Lima Land, and you're like, do I want to run it? And then you see that like 8 people are signed up, and you're like, I don't want to run it.
It's always like checking who's running. It's like anyone good running? All right, I'll run it. No one's good running. I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah, and that's kind of I kind of stepped away from the official stuff just for drama purposes and time purposes, but It ain't too bad. Whenever you do get some good guys in there and you can kind of race like any car around, I think it's fun to race against good competition.
It's enjoyable sometimes. Yeah, good
Sometimes
cars.
there's many days that I've been like, oh, I hate my life. Like I just want to give up. And then there's days where you're on top and days you're not, and it's just part of it.
Oh yeah, like for me, it's like as long as I make main, like it's the main goals. I really don't care where I finish in the actual main event. It's just trying to make the main every week is all I mainly care about.
And that's hard. Not for a
It's
lot of people. That's not easy
no,
by any means.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what night you have or what you did last week. It's a challenge every time, and just because if you hiccup just once, you're out to lunch.
GG's.
Yeah, I was surprised the February race I hit the tire and I didn't even a lap in and I made the main. Like right when I made the main, I was like, we're good. I don't care where I finish. I don't care where I wreck lap one. Like we salvaged something
Yeah,
from
because you
not hit.
qualified 33rd at Fairbury.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was looking that up earlier to see how because you finished 14th at both races at the first two races,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, how did that go? And then I remembered that you had started really far back and because you qualified so bad. What happened there?
I did the first lap I boarded, when I shouldn't have, and then
Right.
the second lap I like barely touched the tire, and he gave me a 0x from it. So I just started in the back. Luckily, the heat races were actually racy, so they gave like 2 or 3 spots and started like second row to be,
Yeah,
and just like got the lead lap 1 and kind of checked out.
yeah. You rolled bottom there, I think, or was it bottom on the
He
first
was
lap or
rolling
whatever?
bottom.
Kind of,
Yeah.
First corner, and then
Yeah.
through the bomb entering 3.
yeah,
That was in the LCQ, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
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 and you
Yep.
that was such a good
Hey, B
LCQ.
main winners right here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Little B main bandits, we'll call that this episode.
Oh yeah.
So I wanna bring up the what we have the Plum Wild moment of the week, right? And I've already discussed what it's gonna be here with some
Is
people.
it my teammate here?
It is your teammate. It is your
Okay.
teammate. I
I was yelling at him
believe
for
it
this.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe it was in the
in the
in the
B.
Is it a
was
B?
it in the V? Okay, let's go
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
V.
yeah.
So
Well, both T and B really, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone was purely innocent in all this, but this was
I don't
definitely
even.
wild. Let's see here. When
The
did this
in-car
happen?
camera was really hilarious. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So
The
whenever they,
screen.
whenever they had him on the broadcast, did you see that, JD?
no.
They
Wait, did
had
they
him
all
on the
scream it?
they had him
Yeah,
on the
Okay.
broadcast
He was muted, so
while he
we couldn't
was.
hear it.
That's yeah, but they had him on the broadcast while this was happening. Like it's so funny to me.
Yeah.
and his facial reaction just killed me because I know what he said.
I know
Oh
he was
yeah.
pissed. And you
Yeah,
said
he
that
was
you were yelling at him?
well, after he went after Steel, like we always like whenever like someone touches Loic, it just like he does the same thing like D-Sharp used to do when he was on the team or ran more. Whereas it's like that's where Loic started running with first is like whenever someone touches him, he just starts to like freak out
Yeah.
instead of just gather the car up. I was like down the front stretch when he hit Jeremy and one of the entire front stretch. I said, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it," and then he did it. I was like, "Of course."
Right here, whenever he's like, you see he got into him on the back stretch, and then you see him like, you think he's gonna go low, and you're like, don't do it, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, the entire front stretch, I was in Discord just saying, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it," and he did it. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But like, what really like? So yeah, he moved him out of the way here. I thought they were 3 wide, but turns out they
no.
weren't.
Yeah, they would have gathered up because like at that point they're already kind of hooked. If Steel went to the outside wall and then like Logue would have
Yeah,
slid and still kind of under, they would have
the
survived. But
Loic would have got the position, and I
yeah,
understand the situation. But yeah, it was
Which,
funny.
but
yeah,
like I said, Jeremy's not completely innocent in
the
this.
clear high a little bit.
Yeah,
The
he
first one
definitely
was
No.
came up.
fine.
The first
The,
one,
the
like a
lap
couple
one
laps
before was
before,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah, the second one where like, cause like everyone's doing it recently, where it's just like clear and high up, and it's like I probably would have done the same thing as Loic there, where it's like I can't do much, like I just might as well just like I'm trying to go, and you're clearing
Yeah,
up, and I have a
I
huge
just
run.
would have drove through him there if
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, like it wouldn't even matter. No, I can't. But yeah, that is kind of how I look at it. Just don't clear high me.
Yes.
So
And
that
the
was,
And then
clearing
he
high
crossed
is
on me.
bad.
Yeah, he was
yeah.
just destroyed.
Poor Peyton. He was
Steve.
definitely upset
Yeah.
after that one. And I was actually in that. Now that I think about it, I was in there,
Mm.
fucking around back there in the back, just hoping something bigger than that would happen, which unfortunately it didn't. But yeah, so
Mm.
that's what we got for our Plum Wild moment of the week. So you mentioned that you were in Discord with them. So I do wonder sometimes with some of these people, some of these other teams people, um, me and Kiefer and Blake Murray, us three Apex drivers in Pro Series, we're all in Discord together. You're offered, each individual person is offered their own Discord uh,
Yeah.
voice channel. Do y'all ever utilize that, or are y'all always in the same voice chat?
We're usually, for the most part, always just in the same chat. I think last week at Fairbury, James got put in his own with LB, but we have, for the most part, we're usually just always in the same voice channel. Like we have 4 spotters technically, but it's like we kind of just all hang out together. Like we've always done that, unless like certain scenarios where one driver like wants to be by himself with a spotter, but we're usually just all together.
Do
Yeah.
you like that? Do you like the Adam Elby says hashtag no cap? Good to see Adam in here. That's dope. Yeah. So do you usually prefer to have a spotter, or do you like to just kind of hang out and chill? Personally, I like whenever it's just me and Kiefer and Blake, and we just kind of get to relax and chill. I have ran with a spotter before, but what do you prefer? Not wanting to call
I
out your
usually tell
teammates
the
here.
guys like, yeah, I usually tell the guys like don't spot me for the most part. Especially like fair when Logan was running up front, like Rusty was trying to spot me, and I just straight told him don't spot me, spot Logan. Like
Right.
I just don't really need it for the most part. I feel like the only thing is like I always tell if there's a wreck, tell me. But other than that, I usually don't have spotters or like anyone telling me.
I'm
Like
gonna bring
anything.
that up. If I get contact with you, JD, I'm gonna be like, oh, you don't need a spotter, huh? That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring up. What were you gonna
I don't
say,
even run the
Kiefer?
iRacing spotter.
Oh wow, yeah.
No,
Now
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, I don't run
crime.
anything.
That's a
That's
crime.
the crime.
or high.
What
If
were
I
you
get
gonna
fenced by JD next week, huh?
What were you gonna say before I interrupted you?
I think I said I feel the same way, but I don't remember what we
Yeah,
were feeling the same way about.
How many beers have you
the
had?
spotter.
Oh, spotter wise, 2.5. I'm kind of agree with you about racing kind of by yourself. The only thing I really truly would say I needed a spotter for would be line
Yeah.
or like someone like whenever I watch Nathan like, hey, move up half a lane, you squirrel, like that, or
That's like it
or
that's
like
helped me the
just
most
if
in
there's
any of the
chaos,
races.
in front of me, kind of like same way. But other than that, most of the time I just want to race. Like just let me race.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it will spot me a little bit because we're all like I said, we're all on the same channel for the most part, but like it doesn't bother me too much. Like they can if they want. If they don't want to, it's fine. Like just try to tell me about the Rex.
We got the
Got the cores. We
America truck, yeah.
we didn't get a lot of practice.
Zero really.
Yeah,
Besides
because we went to the beach.
Monday.
Did you see anything about that, JD? About us at the beach?
But
Oh,
I think I saw a little bit.
saw
Saw
the
you guys were out there.
water. Yeah, Nathan got drunk off 6 beers. You wouldn't believe it.
Shut up, dude.
It used to be 4. He's moved up.
Wow. I woke up at like 10:30 and shotgunned a beer to start the morning,
After
basically.
I done went to Walmart, got the Dunkin' Donuts, the ice, the beer, you name it. He's waking up. It's been 30.
So
Good job.
Edens wants to know. This is a teammate asking this.
Yeah, I see that.
Putting it on blast. When's the set gonna be done?
He has it. He has the
Yeah.
VRS qual set. Race set needs a little work, but we're good to go already.
Well,
Is it
tell him to get to work then, damn it.
so? Is it safe to assume that like basically you're building the sets for each week and then they can tweak from there, or like is it kind of a group effort?
It really depends. Logan usually always has his own stuff. Then like And it just depends on the week. Like for the most part, I think I build the baseline and then James builds it. And then it really just depends. Every week it's different.
Yeah, James is saying
We're just
that
like
he
going
built
back and
last
forth.
week, and this is your turn. This is your turn this
Yeah,
week.
he did build. Yeah, he did build a February set.
So y'all
last
just
week,
take
or the
turns.
Secret Lake race. Yeah.
Damn.
Adam's
Yeah, usually going back and forth.
Adam's
Must be
asking where the
nice. That must
camera's
be-
at, and
Not
I
even
asked
set up
that
right
too.
now. It
It's
was on
not
the
even set up.
broadcast. I had to get the interview. The
Yeah.
heat race.
By the way, I meant to mention this last week. Y'all heat winners in the Pro Series can thank me for those heat race winner interviews. I brought that up to Tyler Hudson,
Really?
and I said, hey, y'all, he had just told us about, like, make sure you got this or that. We want to bring you in for an interview if this or that. And I was like, so I messaged him and I was like, why don't you interview the heat race winners? Like, that's what they do in real life. It's 4 extra interviews. And he was like, I'll pass it along. And then sure enough, they did it. And I meant to mention it last week, but so yeah, you got the heat race interview. I watched that too. So you do have a camera, so I'm slightly disappointed that you.
I'm sorry about that.
That's
What?
right.
You said it was you said it's a horrible camera, and
To
so
me,
I went
it's a
back and
horrible
watched.
camera.
But
It looks
I mean,
pretty bad.
shit. I was like, I went back and watched the interview. I was like, that wasn't even bad. It's not even that bad.
Yeah, Herbert talking about the hard charger. 3 spots hard charger. Good
That's-
run.
It's tough, dude. It's so tough.
It
Hard
was
work.
sweet, yeah.
I was watching that feature and I was like, this is not good content. Like, this is not entertaining.
No.
And I
Are
feel
you not
for
entertained?
I feel for everybody at iRacing that, especially like Tyler, who's trying to make these decisions on the track state and everything.
And working for the new build and everything and doing all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I'm appreciative of them and I feel for them whenever stuff doesn't go right. But that was definitely not a good race to watch, even from my perspective. And I didn't have to, but Kiefer was like, I'm not watching this. You watching this? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch it. So
You should have heard our Discord during the race. Like we completely zoned out.
did
Like
you?
we were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about that for the first like 10, like 20 laps, like Joel was in their spot, like just talking about other stuff. Like we completely just zoned out altogether because we're not doing anything. Like we're just single file, no one can pass.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of that way at Volusia, and you were in that feature at Volusia. Were you one of the ones that got caught up in that wreck? You had some damage, correct?
Yeah. It was basically
Yes,
like
we
the
were-
backpack was all like damaged cars, but we were brawling back there.
Hey,
that
now,
one- that
I
one
was
was
in the middle of
damaged.
that. I almost threw an elbow to you, and I was like, you know what? My right front's about to fall off. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
That
the
was a-
damaged
that was
cars
a-
back there.
That was a rough day because we were in a pack there, like the last 6 guys, and then me.
Yeah.
I fell off further, and Barbara, me and him, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So-
That wreck really didn't make things great.
Oh, that wreck screwed everything up. And then there was a wreck early in this race too. Like, I don't know, like 6 or 7
yeah, that was
laps in.
rough for Hardy and I think it was
Oh,
Busby. They had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Somebody got turned up the track, didn't they? Or am I thinking of the Wotel race?
Honeycut and Toter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and
That was the 3 spots that Logan Herbert got.
Yep. Uh-huh.
That's what I was about to say. That's the 3. That's the hard charger
That's how you
spots
get
right
the
there.
hard charge.
Yeah, if you look, no one moved up or lost. Like Max was 2 spots, except the 2 cars that wrecked, and Herbert moved up 3. But everyone else is like either went down or up 2 spots, and that was it.
Yeah,
Like,
Keith
that's
Lewis went up
brutal.
1, Evan went down 1. You
James went up
stayed-
1. I went down 1. James went up 1.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's
you
just
let your guy
everyone
by.
makes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That did surprise me. I talked about it in the first episode whenever I was talking about how Blake was running 4th and then made a rare mistake and let Tomasi by. And so he had to settle for 5th because that track was unpassable. And then we saw it the flip side, his teammate Evan make a rare mistake. Evan's like,
He threw.
He
If he didn't get tight, he wins the race.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it was such a rare mistake out of the 33 car, and it cost him the race on like lap 1.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
only lap 103. If he didn't get tight, Blake would or Evan, he would have still been leader 1. Like he just entered too high. It just got tight.
Yeah. And it's part of it. It's just one mistake. Boom, there it is. And he was fast. Like, I think he was faster than Blake all
Oh
race,
yeah.
but he just couldn't get by him. And he was making the top work. Just it
Yeah,
was
Logan ran it
okay.
for a bit. The top wasn't bad, but it's like you had nowhere to go with it.
Right,
Right.
like
So it's
because
not.
whenever as soon as the person would arc out the corner, you didn't have enough speed to get under them,
No.
and you were gonna have to move them and
I
pull.
don't pull a
Pull-
Loic.
Yeah.
Pull a
Yeah.
Loic and move him out of the way.
Poor God.
I thought you were about to say that. No, but yeah. So you're sitting 7th in points. 3 races in, 2 14th place finishes, and a 4th.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting pretty good going into week 4, getting close to the midway point. I mean, what are your true expectations for next week at Port Royal for yourself?
I honestly just make the main and then go from there.
It's
Like it's
still
the sprint
just
cars are
that.
the same. No, sprint cars are the same thing. Like I said, at one point I was like up in third points, and I was like, goals every week, just make the main. After that, it's fine. Because like for me, it's like the money is like not really worth put like crazy amount of hours that Evan does, and it's like really if you don't
Yeah,
get top 3, it's not worth the money you get. So it's like I just like to be in pro series. I want to keep in pro, but other than like my place in pro, it doesn't really bother me where I get.
that's kind of how I've been feeling towards that. If I wanted to stay around, like I would just like to be in Pro Series. I don't want to have to do what it takes in order to win.
Yes. Yeah. I just like keeping my spot
Yeah.
in pro.
And try to have a little fun. That's like
Oh
the
yeah.
big thing.
Good racing, which unfortunately hasn't really been
Yeah.
too much of in the pro series. But Logan Herbert, one of our competitors, is wanting to hear all 3 of your opinions. Do you guys get nervous going into qualifying or sitting on the grid for the heat? I'll let you go first on this one, JD. We'll go backwards.
For sure used to, like first year pro. Now not as much, like sometimes I'd say, but like once you start racing it goes away, and then nowhere near as much as like used to, where you like early pro, it's yeah, you get a lot of nerves like first year pro.
So follow-up question. So, you started pole of your heat 3, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that even though you say there's not really much nerves, is that more nerve-wracking starting on the front row, starting pole compared to like starting in the back, or compared to starting right on like a transfer spot for you in Pro Series?
It just makes life a lot easier when you start up there. Cause like, I go into that where I'm like, I should be able to just check out and like not have too much competition, maybe battle one guy. But when you're starting like mid pack, it's like I'm gonna be fighting for my life for the transfer spot. So it's a lot different mentality.
Right. So
Yes, I agree.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. So what about you, Kiefer? I mean, this is only your second year, but I mean,
I don't know. I haven't really gotten nervous on iRacing since probably my first ever spring fleeing heat race. I qualified third and won the heat race. No, I don't know if I won the heat race or not, but I started on a pole of that heat race and I was hitting a brick for that. I was nervous. Now,
Yeah.
as much as I've raced, like even like in the real car, I don't really get nervous anymore. It's just if you start in the middle of the pack, you got a job to do, and that's to get up front. If you start up front, you got a job to do, and that's to stay up front. It's at the end of the day, I don't. The less you worry about it, the faster and the better off you're going to be because you'll be able to roll with the motions, and you won't be so tight, and you can kind of be loose, and that's just my opinion on it, but. Not anymore. I used to. I used to get nervous in the car, big car, the real car, but now it's just kind of get the job done.
Yeah. I always got more nervous on iRacing than the real car. Real car never.
Yeah. Like I race, like I'm telling you right now, that spring fling heat race when I started on pole, I was pooping my pants.
I know, like, talk to Logan and even like when Hayden used to play a lot. Like, we all say like you get more nervous on iRacing and sitting on grid than real life. Like, real life on it is just nowhere near as the
And I
nerves don't set in.
and I don't know why, but like I don't know what it is. It's just the iRacing is so competitive.
Yeah.
So competitive. Like when you go to like you have to go to
a pretty prestigious event to get 35 guys that are some of the 35 guys best in the best in the business. And whenever you bring those 35 guys from iRacing to real racing, there's 35 guys that all can do the exact same thing as you, same equipment, same everything, besides setup, of course. But it all comes down to driver, and I think there's a lot of wheelmen in iRacing, and it takes a lot, and it's difficult. Like iRacing's no joke. Like it's harder to it'd be harder to win a Pro Series race than it is the real race car to win a real race.
The main thing is like everyone has like the speed to win. It's more so like consistency. Like everyone in pro, I think like has those one nights where like you're just crazy fast where you're running top 5. It's more so like it's hard to do that every single week. Like Evan and Blake are just the best at it, obviously, and no one really could do that consistent. But like you can see it's similar. Like for the most part, the top 10 guys are relatively similar, and then you have like one or two that have speed that one night and that could run that top 10 or top 5 that night.
Like you and James really weren't that far back from Blake and Evan there in that race. I mean, there's a few slight mistakes that you two made, and that was they just didn't really make a mistake after that first lap that Evan did, and it's hard. It really is. It's even to like just tell yourself for 50 laps, hey, I'm gonna run this exact same line all race. I'm not gonna try anything. I'm not gonna do anything else. It's a big mental thing as well.
Yeah, you just do not move from what you're doing.
So, the track was very one line. You kind of knew that before the feature even started, but you had the first start, and then a restart like 6 laps in. Were you kind of like nervous that you might get freight trained or anything, by not getting to that line because you're starting, double file? Or was it still a little bit racy?
The first one was fine because, like I said, I was rolling infield tires and like I got next 7 at like early, and then early on it was fine because you're able to actually like run different lines. The second restart, it was literally just in line immediately behind James, but
yeah,
follow the person in front of you.
Yeah, it was it wasn't the best race, but I know that they're trying. As for me, I gotta answer that question. I don't really get nervous going into qualifying, or sitting on the grid. I mean, basically the same answer as Kiefer and JD. It's I've got a decent amount of experience now, and I was very nervous for a lot of it. I remember the first round of pro qualifiers last year, whenever I was starting like 3rd in heat 1. I remember pacing around on the back stretch at Kokomo, and I was like, I feel kind of lightheaded. Like I was really fucking nervous. But it doesn't really get to me anymore, which kind of pisses me off because I can't use that as an excuse for why I haven't qualified worth of shit so far. So that kind of sucks. But so you, JD, are just looking to make the feature as always next week.
Make the main.
Yeah, make the main. That's my goal. I guess the first goal is just to make enough laps during the week to feel comfortable and really, really comfortable in the line and everything for qualifying, and then hit a good qualifying line and be able to start further up in a heat race than what I have, and then hopefully transfer into the feature. That's my goal at this point. 3 races in, not made a single feature, so frustrated, and I'm not quitting, not wanting to give up. Want to use that as motivation to get better and try to actually start
Make
improving and make some. I want to be in one of them 50 lappers. So what's your goal, Keith? You've made 2 features, and done pretty well in one of them, but what's your goal going into next week at Port?
Make the feature, rip the lip, bang the boards. That's like all I want to do. I just want to rip the cushion, and I want to suck at least one person's vinyl off. I don't care if it's for 20th, but that's all I want to do. Just one lap, one corner, one person. That's all I need to do. Then I'll be set. I'll be happy.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Like I could be leading and wreck with 1 lap to go, and I'd be happy.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna hold you to that. If you are in the lead and you wreck, I am going, and then you flip the fuck out. I have this recorded. It's there. I'll have it there. Like Holtmeyer says, lies.
You wouldn't even get anything because it would just be me walking away from the computer, and I'd be done. Like I would just get up. I would get up, walk away, turn the PC off, and just be done. And I'd
Yeah.
probably load up. I'd probably load it up about 10 minutes after that and text you to play some Rocket League.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
about.
I think
that's how that
it,
would go.
yeah. If I can't. I don't want to speak anything to existence here. Hopefully, all three of us,
Yeah.
can.
Hopefully we all three start next to each other in the future.
Oh,
That'd be great.
that would be so great.
We'll
That's
just we'll all run second or third in the heat, and then we'll just start like 7th, 8th, and 9th, and just chill.
well, yeah. So that
And
sounds
then
like
I'm gonna
our.
attach my to JD for their future.
All right. So I got to get out of here. It's been over an hour. That's JD Brown. Thank you so much for coming on, JD. Hopefully, like Kiefer said, we can all have a good week at Port Royal. Good luck to you. And like I said, thanks again for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's it for this podcast, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all in the next one.